But first, let me say thank you to University of Phoenix for inviting me to participate. It's a great way. It's great to see a university supporting its alumni. My name is Caitlin Dufton. My day job here at LinkedIn is to help schools advertise on our platform in order to connect with prospective students. But my passion is networking and teaching others how to do so on LinkedIn. And despite the no existing cartilage in my knees, I am a lifelong soccer player. I promise this will come up again in this presentation. And I will now pass over the proverbial mic to my fellow speakers, starting with Steven Starks.
Hey everyone, I'm Steven Starks. I'm the Senior Manager of Career Counseling Programs and Operations. And here at the University of Phoenix, I lead our career coaching team to provide personalized support to our students and alumni with helping them figure out what they want to achieve in their career and helping to create a plan to make it happen. I should also say I'm a University of Phoenix alum myself, and like many of our alum, I'm a first-generation college grad. So Lemitra, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Stephen. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Hello again, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Lemitra Off, and I am a certified professional coach. I am also the owner, operator, and principal coach for Lemitra Off Coaching and LBO Career Coaching and Consulting LLC. I coach in a non-judgmental environment. I coach individuals that are flawsome, yes, flawsome, flawed and awesome. I coach individuals that may be directors, leaders, managers, team leaders, team members, nonprofit organizations, nonprofit organizers, groups, individuals, and anyone willing and ready to grow, learn, and develop. Grow their lives to accomplish their goals, whatever that goal may be. Many cases is career related. Other cases, it is transformational or transition related, transitioning from one career to another career. Lastly, and probably most importantly to this audience, I am a 2004 University of Phoenix graduate, and I'm ready to rock your profile. Back to you, Caitlin.
Thanks, Lemitra. So before I run through the agenda, I want to emphasize that if you take nothing else away from this presentation, the number one thing to remember is the importance of networking and doing it regularly. Networks are what facilitate learning, collaboration, and knowledge about opportunities, and networks do need to be nurtured. LinkedIn's primary value is making the nurture part easier by facilitating connecting and communicating. So in terms of quick agenda setting, this presentation is going to cover what differentiates LinkedIn, what actions you can take to make the platform work for you, then separately the actions you should take on the platform once your profile is awesome, and then we'll end up with a quick overview of the paid version of LinkedIn. All right, so let's dive in. In this section, I'm going to cover LinkedIn in relation to other platforms, common misconceptions about LinkedIn, and what makes the tool so powerful. Like other social media, LinkedIn is about sharing content and socializing with your network. But the difference is really in the why. So what do people use LinkedIn for? Job searching, definitely, personal branding. But for me, what I think it really boils down to is three things. One, staying in touch with your network. Two, connecting with experts that have skills and knowledge that you don't. And three, getting referrals. So what I think makes the platform so powerful is that it helps you connect with the right people who have the right information, so it helps you make informed decisions. So LinkedIn is your digital Rolodex. The beauty of it is that you don't really need to memorize things. You don't need to know things off the top of your head. It knows when people in your network change jobs, and it provides a way to contact people that you don't have contact information for, or at least not readily available. It essentially makes networking easier. This thing that used to feel like it was such a heavy lift, it makes it easier. LinkedIn is also frankly, it's just a research database. At this point, it's been years since I've ever gone to an interview without looking up who my interviewers are on LinkedIn before going to the interview. And also just a great way to browse profiles of employees, get a better understanding of the org, the culture. And lastly, it's the right audience for professional advancement. It's populated with your network. It's the #1 platform that recruiters use for recruiting and finding talent. And our data shows that job applicants referred by an employee are 9 times more likely to get hired. And I'll definitely be going a little bit more into network building later, but big spoiler alert, referrals do not need to come from people that are your closest friends and colleagues. And then another pro tip or pro tips is that members that benefit the most from LinkedIn have lots of connections. I'll go into that a little bit more later as well. And also those who use our mobile app. Moving on to common misconceptions about LinkedIn. I'm going to go over 4 major myths about LinkedIn. And the first one is that LinkedIn is just an online resume. So LinkedIn is not just an online resume because it's a way to bring your professional brand to life. It lets you use richer media like videos, photos, presentations. It helps you call attention to what makes you unique compared to other people basically that have the same job title as you. Plus, you can just generally include more information. It's not limited to a page. You can pack in keywords so that you can be found more effectively by recruiters. Not to mention that it's clearly a social network. So part of the point of it is to be able to communicate with your network. Myth number 2 is I only need LinkedIn when I'm on the market for a new job. So people often forget that they should always be networking, not wait until you need a job, especially if you want a job that you want rather than a job that you need. Simply put, searching will almost definitely take longer if you're not networking in advance. And Lemitra, I think you had some interesting insight that you wanted to share on this particular point, so I'll tag you in here.
I had myself on mute so that you wouldn't hear any feedback. Thank you, Caitlin, for introducing me again.
Classic pandemic move, Lemitra.
The quote is, you do not need to be sick to get better. You do not need to be sick to get better. Traditionally, in our first world culture, again, traditionally, we all live in the United States for the most part. When we get sick, we go to the doctor prescribes something, we get better. We only use the doctor when we get sick, most of us. And that's usually a little transactional, one time, get sick, get medicine, get better. It's a transaction. As opposed to having a more of a proactive way of thinking about medicine and the way of doing things, your health. Essentially, if you have a proactive way of thinking about your health, you would do preventive things. What I mean by that is eat the foods that are right for you, drink the drinks that are right for you, supplements, vitamins, exercise, so that you're not missing out on any health benefits and you're less likely to get sick. That's the same way that we can think about LinkedIn. Again, LinkedIn is proactive. Proactive in the same way preventative medicine is proactive, or preventative measures are proactive. You're making relationships, you're connecting with people to proactively have relationships as opposed to transactions. Think about it. Which would you rather have? Who would you rather help? Someone that asks you for something, for advice or for assistance, and you have a relationship with them, or someone who one time says, oh, let me ask Caitlin something about soccer. And she'd probably answer because she loves soccer. However, it's out of the blue. There's no relationship there that will connect you with Caitlin. You don't need to be sick to get better. You can always get better. You can always use your relationships as connectors. You can always learn, grow, and develop. Thank you for sharing that topic, Caitlin. Back to you.
Yeah, Lemitra, I love that comparison. That's awesome. And yes, I will respond to anyone who asks me about soccer. Okay, so the third myth is networking is for extroverts. I find this one to be so funny because I actually think that LinkedIn makes networking so much easier specifically for introverts. So I'll be the first to admit I'm 110% extroverted, but I too have social anxiety at networking events of awkwardly walking up to a group of people with very little to talk about. So, I mean, in my opinion, what makes networking easier is research, and LinkedIn provides that. Again, research database. You know, I stalk the heck out of people that are attending events before I go, and I come up with a strategy of who I want to talk to and why I want to talk to them. it just provides a way to have a warmer introduction. And at the very least, you can look up information so you have more to say beyond what do you do for a living, and then awkward silence. And I know we're not really doing in-person events right now, but this goes for virtual events as well. Other stealth forms of networking using our platform, giving kudos for great work or promotion or work anniversary. To Lemitra's point, sharing information, not only reaching out when you need something, but offering something. Moderating a LinkedIn group demonstrates leadership skills. And one thing that I'm going to reinforce a lot throughout this presentation is helping others. We have this thing here at LinkedIn called the +1 Pledge, and it's all about bridging the opportunity gap and opening up your network to those that don't necessarily have weren't afforded the opportunity to have such a great network as yours. And so, I mean, I wouldn't say offering help. You shouldn't do it so that you can get things in return, but paying it forward really is. I mean, if you help someone in their time of need, they'll almost definitely return the favor at some point if you do need it. And then the last myth is, if I pay for LinkedIn Premium, jobs will flock my way. So the next section, we're going to talk about setting up the perfect LinkedIn profile, but that's really just step one. You'll definitely get a lot more views if you have a really great profile, but you'll get the most views depending on the actions you take on the platform, which is what part of the second half of this presentation is about. But by no means do I want to mislead. LinkedIn won't do the work for you. It just makes the work easier. It does this by providing searchable resources and increasing the odds of finding more opportunities through an extended network. All right, so now that I've told you what's not true about LinkedIn, I'll cover the things that you can do on the platform. Again, want to be clear that setting up your profile is separate from actions afterwards. But so first we'll cover setting up your profile. So main message here is, the more complete your profile is, the more likely you are to show up in searches, and more importantly, accurate searches. So starting with the profile picture, this is an example of a bad profile picture. And here's an example of a good profile picture. And so, I mean, jokes aside, it doesn't need to be a professional headshot. It just should be probably only you in the picture. And other quick tips we give is, choose a background that's not distracting, dress for the job you want, be authentic, smile. We do find that members that have profile pictures just end up getting more views and more connection requests. And having a background photo for your banner up top is also a bonus, which you'll see in my next screenshot. And so location is another thing I want to point out, because mainly recruiters, when they search for talent within the LinkedIn talent platform, they usually use this tactic called Boolean search, where they'll look for several keywords using and not or functions so that they can find skills relevant to a role that they're trying to fill. But another thing they almost always use is location. And this may have changed a little bit due to pandemic and remote work, but that will change again in the future. And if you don't have a location, you just automatically are filtered out of those searches. And so I know a lot of people sometimes think, oh, I don't want to be pigeonholed into one location. I'm open to multiple locations. You can put that in your job seeking preferences, but you should list a location in your profile. Next up is the headline. So the headline here it's a great opportunity to show, what you are, not just what you do. You are more than your job. Plus, it's kind of wasted real estate if you just put your job title in there, because your job title is already, of course, going to be in your experience section. So my advice here is to be strategic without being blatantly misleading. For example, if you're looking for a new role, maybe you want to list a title that you want. But again, being strategic. So just as an example, one of the last times I was job searching, I was interested in customer success manager roles, but I never had customer success manager as a title for one of my previous roles. But I certainly had a lot of the relevant experience. So I changed my title to customer champion. So this wasn't a lie, wasn't wrong. A lot of my work history involved advocating for my clients. But this definitely helped me show up in more searches for recruiters looking for those types of titles. And Stephen, I'm going to tag you in on this one, since I know you had some additional information to share specifically for University of Phoenix alumni.
Yeah, thanks, Caitlin. So one of the things I talk to clients about is creating what I call a searchable headline. And really, in short, a searchable headline is something that's going to make you findable. That means using descriptive language It means using words that someone might type in to search for someone of your skills and talents. So that obviously includes keywords, related to the industry that you want to be a part of, related to your skill sets. But there's really three main things that I talk about when creating a searchable headline. And this is going to be in a LinkedIn profile guide that we're providing to everyone. So you should see a link for that in the chat. We'll be sharing it there. We'll be sharing it on the screen. And then we are also sharing it on the LinkedIn event page. So the first thing to creating a searchable headline is to know your audience. So knowing your audience is really about thinking about who do you want to connect with, who do you want to engage, who do you want to find you? And this is really thinking about the kind of professional you are or aspire to be. So Caitlin touched a little bit about that, touched upon that a little bit. So I'll give you an example. So I was working with a client who, was a customer service manager, and their headline was all about customer service, but they were going to school for accounting and they wanted to be an accountant. So they changed their headline to aspiring accountant, and they include some keywords and skill sets like QuickBooks certified. I can't remember the rest of it, but bottom line is think about who is it that you are trying to engage with, and engage in that audience, the one that you want to connect with, and maybe even hiring managers that are hiring for those entry-level positions if you're making a switch. And so that's really going to help you with positioning yourself. And the second thing is you want to discover some of the keywords that are really important. That's going to be the skill sets that you possess or the credentials that you have. And that's going beyond your job title to tell people what you really can do, what you're passionate about. And so for an example, I'll use myself as an example. If I just said career coach, I would lump myself in with everybody else who is a career coach. But instead, I have national certified counselor, career coach, job search strategist. And so these are keywords that really help somebody understand the kind of specialties I have. And then finally, the third thing is you want to communicate your value. And I like to do that through some sort of tagline or slogan. And this is where in plain language, you're going to articulate what kind of benefit or what kind of value do you deliver. So again, I use myself as an example. So those keywords that I mentioned, national certified counselor, career coach, job search strategist, I end it with a tagline that says, I help people discover and land work they love. Very simple, but when you put it all together, that kind of a headline is going to make you more searchable. So Caitlin, do you have anything to add to that?
That's actually a perfect segue into the next section, the summary section. And I'm going to tag Lemitra in for this one after a quick format advice. So typically the summary section is really where you can communicate your professional brand in your own words. And it truly is a summary of all of your experiences because you are not just one job. And I'm going to echo what Stephen said, optimize for your audience. Who do you hope is looking at your profile? You should write your summary section for them. So your message will be different if you're climbing the ladder in your industry, if you're a career advancer versus if you're a freelancer versus if you're a career changer. The message will be different. So Lemitra, I'll bring you in to elaborate. I know you have some tips and strategies behind the summary section.
Yes. Everything that we're saying, thank you, Caitlin, thank you, Stephen, builds on your profile. It enhances your profile. That being said, as far as those who watch TV, how many people here have been at home and you heard commercials about been in a car accident? Call me. I'm the Hammer. John Hammerman or whatever. Raise your hand if you've heard any commercial like that. Probably no one's heard it. Probably can you guys hear me? Hello?
I think you're good now, Lemitra.
Okay. Someone said no sound. But in any case, we probably have not heard those conversations. We probably have not heard those commercials because we're at work. Those individuals that are stating that been in a car accident, need an attorney, they are focusing on those who have been in a car accident, those who are laying at home, those who are injured, those who need an attorney. those individuals, those attorneys have specific marketing teams or have essentially asked for a marketing professional to help them market their services during a certain time of day where people will hear, see, and know about their services. That being said, you have to do the same thing for your target audience. We all have a target audience. Whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, you should have a target audience. Essentially, as a job seeker, as a career changer, as a advancer, you have to be specific. You have to be specific, and you have to show who you serve, why you serve them, and how you serve them in a way that you are providing solutions, you're providing value, and essentially, you're answering the question, what am I the solution for? Or more appropriately, if it's an individual, who am I the solution for? That being said, with my clients, I offer a purpose statement as part of the package, one of the packages I offer. And that package is essentially something that they could tailor to anything that they want to do. As for if they're changing a job, if they're starting a business, if they are transitioning, they tailor that information that shows their audience, their reason, and how they do what they do. Thank you, Caitlin. I will continue to keep my mic on.
I was just thinking I was going to work into whenever you're tagged in next, I'll try to remind you to unmute right beforehand. All right, so the next section up in the profile section is the experience. So this is pretty self-explanatory. Main point here is include all of your former roles. Some people think that they should get rid of past roles that aren't as relevant. That is true for resumes due to limited real estate. But I think that for a LinkedIn profile, you might as well take advantage of the fact that you can put in more keywords that can be found when recruiters are doing their searches for you. A lot of people ask about what about if I have a gap in my experience? That's a great time that you can use volunteer experience. It totally counts. So do personal projects, as long as they are demonstrating professional skills that are relevant for folks that are looking to potentially switch industries. Recommended format here is concise paragraph summarizing your role and bullets of your accomplishments and results. Then there is the education section. So two main points here. One, if you list your education in your profile, it helps you filter into the alumni page, which I'm going to cover later when we do a demo section. But also, I mean, you got educated, you paid for it, you should brag about it. I would also, make sure you include certifications and other, there's an accomplishments section. Next and last up is the skills section. Again, pretty self-explanatory, but recruiters rely pretty heavily on this section. And so I just encourage you to make it comprehensive. Soft skills count. This is also where you can get endorsements from your network. And the chat and questions are coming in quickly, so I can't lie and say I've seen all of them, but I definitely saw some question about, should I only put skills in for jobs I'm looking for? You can list up to 50 skills in this section. So I think the more the merrier, and try to get endorsements for the skills that you truly have. Obviously don't lie in this section, but you can fit up to 50 skills, and you can choose the top 3 that you want to be prominently displayed in your profile. So perhaps you make those 3 more prominently if you're looking for a new job and want them to be obvious. And then before I close out this Rock Your Profile 101 section out, this is a screenshot of what shows up if a recruiter finds me. So if they do this Boolean search tactic where they use keywords to look for me in our system, this is what shows up. And so I show this mostly, to be honest, I'll even just tag in Steven's point again. He said career coach, that's a generic title. If you put career coach in here and then you show up with 10 other career coaches, what really differentiates you? So I think the headline here is really what is a key differentiator. And so instead of project manager, I put in professional connector, learnaholic, doer, passionate about social impact. And then there's the profile picture. I just, if 8 out of 10 people have a profile picture in a search that comes up with 10, I mean, the 2 people that don't just might get overlooked because it's just more work for a recruiter to have to try to humanize you themselves. And And Lemitra, I think it might be better for you. I know I'll try to remind you to come off mute, but I do hear a little bit of feedback on your end, so it might be better for you to be muted.
Okay.
But I'll do my best to remind you to come off mute. Okay, so network building. I promised I would get back to this. So once your profile is complete, the next step is to build your network. And here I just point out your network's probably bigger than you think. You know, it's friends, family, classmates, alumni, colleagues, former colleagues. People often have this perception that their network should be limited to people they've interacted with professionally, and that's just not true. You know, my network is friends from high school, college classmates, alumni, anyone I've ever worked with professionally, of course. But the biggest diversity in my network is people I play soccer with. Promise this would come back. Also people I volunteer with. And more importantly, my network is also all of their networks. And so speaking of people who do successful on the platform, I mentioned that having a lot of connections is helpful. So the more connections you have, the better our algorithm is at giving you relevant information, and the more likely you are to show up in other people's feeds. And you're just because you're considered a more active LinkedIn member. You know, the number we always reference as having this optimized profile is 500 plus connections. But I really think just be thoughtful. Your network is more useful to you if it's full of real connections. And so I'll more on that on the next slide. So digging deeper into building networks, research shows that your weak connections, those originally in your second and third degree networks, and for clarification, if anyone's not familiar with that, so my first connection is someone who I'm connected with directly. I've asked Lemitra to be my connection on LinkedIn, so she is my first degree connection. Anyone in her network that she is first degree connected with, but I'm not, is my second degree connection. And so these are considered weak connections, but we find that these connections are often more valuable because their networks are, you know, Lemitra's network is more diverse than just my own. And so I think you know where I'm going with this. Tyrion Lannister is clearly a super connector in Game of Thrones. You know, how else did Jon Snow gained access to dragons? But for those Game of Thrones naysayers out there, we can go back to my soccer picture. Those are my friends, but they also have many connections they can introduce me to. So then how do you build this network? A great way to start is to, you know, you can import email contacts. That's part of the LinkedIn platform, just starting with importing your contacts. And then LinkedIn will suggest based on our algorithm, people you know, based on their networks. So this is just a good starting point, and then just build gradually from there and strategically, you know, connect with people you have something in common with, someone you've shared a job or work history with. And I mean, rule of thumb I tend to use is that I don't typically connect with complete strangers. You know, your time is valuable. Connect with people you'd be willing to give your time to. And so in terms of how to do the outreach, if you know someone really well, you can find them on LinkedIn, click connect, it sends them a generic, I'd like you to join my LinkedIn network, or some message that's like that. Totally fine if it's someone you know really, really well. But outside of that, I would say be as specific and personal as possible. Say who you are, how you came across their profile, you know, how you think that they can help you or how you can help them. You know, people reach out to me all the time just because they went to the same college as I did, or because I work at LinkedIn. They're like, I want to work at LinkedIn. Can we chat? And something that's that linear is just not enough, in my opinion. It needs to be more specific. You see that I work in higher ed at LinkedIn and that I used to work in finance. Ask me how I made that transition. Like something that's more specific, like why did you pick my profile over someone else's? All right, so then next up is the career interest settings. This one I'll gloss over. I only cover it because it's often forgotten, but you should let our technology do the work for you. I sort of liken this to how Netflix recommends content for you. Let us recommend jobs and people to connect with, and let us learn, which actually is my next slide. Let us learn from you. Using the follow feature is something that helps us. So actually, let me back up a second. So your feed, if you're in your LinkedIn profile and you see your feed, it's populated based on your network and based on your interests. So it's populated based on your first degree connections, second degree connections. What are they doing on the platform? If your first degree connection shares some article, that might show up in your feed. And obviously it depends on how many connections you have. If you have fewer connections, then you'll see lots of your connections in your feed. But if you, for example, like someone's article, future posts from them might show up more often in your feed. And so our technology learns and tries to give you the most relevant content for you. And so it's based on the people you follow, the companies you follow, and the hashtags, which is basically the topics you follow. And then also you can, any posts that you find on LinkedIn, there's a little 3-dot button in the upper right-hand corner. If you right-click on that, you'll see this improve my feed function that comes up. And then you can just straight up go in there and say, nope, I don't want to follow this anymore. And I do want to follow this. And these are the things that I want to see in my feed so that it's not full of garbage that makes me never want to check LinkedIn. And so I do have a couple of suggestions. The hashtag get hired is a great one to follow. And then just make sure that anything with hashtag get hired shows up in your feed. But there's also a newsletter, hashtag get hired, that's written by one of my colleagues here at LinkedIn, and it just has some great information about what companies are hiring and things you should be thinking about throughout the job seeking process. Another one is the LinkedIn Guide to Networking page. So if you follow this page, anyone who posts in the page, which is not limited to LinkedIn, it's anyone who has advice on general networking, those things could then show up in your feed. And then the last part of the let our platform do the work for you section is I'm just highlighting notifications, because whether it takes an email or red dots all over your mobile device for you to check your updates, LinkedIn can't help you if you don't check it. And so I do highly encourage everyone to just go through the privacy settings, to each his own. We all have different preferences. I'm calling out how you want to receive your notifications as one of the main things, but there are a lot of other things in the privacy settings you should look into. And another great one you can find in this privacy settings is how to make a personalized URL. So it's not linkedin.com/randomly long number that nobody recognizes. You can just make it your name, which is great for putting on your resume, putting your email signature, even business card, if you have business cards.